Hey everyone, today we're starting an ambitious project, building a complete SaaS application. I have about 10 million tokens to work with. That's 8 million from my regular subscription, plus an extra 2 million gifted tokens from Bolt. Our goal is to build an interactive GitHub tutorial platform. Think of it as a learn by doing environment where users can master Git and GitHub through hands-on exercises. We're aiming for a full-featured SaaS with everything from authentication to payment processing. Before we dive in, let me quickly show you how we'll handle version control. Since Bolt doesn't have native GitHub integration, I have built this Chrome extension called Bolt to GitHub that adds a GitHub button right here in the Bolt interface. You just need to add your GitHub personal access token once in the settings, and then you can push changes directly to GitHub with a single click. The first push automatically create a new repository for us. I'll be pushing our changes regularly throughout the development process, and you can find the final repository link in the description below. Let's see how far we can get with Bolt, and I promise to be completely transparent about the challenges we encounter along the way. Let's get started. Of course, I have planned this application before doing this video, so I have prepared some outline on what to do. Now, I will paste in my initial prompt for the application setup. So basically, I am asking Bolt to create a Next.js application for an interactive GitHub tutorial platform with these following requirements here. Let's see how Bolt will handle this creation process. So now Bolt is generating the package.json file. This file lists all the dependencies that will be used in the application. If we take a look at our prompt here, it's quite a lot to ask for Bolt in one go, but it's concise enough for Bolt to get started. I expect Bolt to fail after this initial attempt. We can see that while Bolt is generating the components here, it's also installing the dependencies behind the scenes. So it's quite nice to see this working in parallel with how the application gets generated. Alright, looks like it's done. You just have to wait for a bit before anything shows up here. But if you're curious, you can look at the code here and see if there's any issues. And looks like there is. But let's see the preview. So there's nothing in there. But usually there will be some errors showing up here. So it looks like we're seeing some changes. There you go. So that's what I'm waiting for this error to appear. And for this box, which shows attempt fix to appear. So let's press attempt fix. As I mentioned, I expected Bolt to encounter issues because there will be missing files at first. So now Bolt is continuously generating the missing components to improve the structure. Alright, so we encountered another issue, module not found. Oh, that's the previous issue. So now we have a new issue here. So let's keep pressing attempt fix. So we can see here the remaining tokens for my free 2 million tokens remaining. I now have 1.9 million tokens remaining. Before recording this video, I have tested this prompt with another Bolt account that I have using free plan. That means with limited daily token allowance. And I wasn't able to get past these issues with using the allotted daily plan. So if you want to attempt this, probably you need the pro plan or a paid plan. Okay, let's keep pressing attempt. We can see the exact issue or the problem here. Either here or here. Okay, let's wait for a bit. It's compiling the slash page. There you go. Okay, there's a runtime error here. Now let's try to attempt to fix this issue. So it's creating some more missing files here. There you go. Our first successful build. But of course, this doesn't look nice, right? So we have to refine this bit by bit. But we'll do that later on. I want to do this development in a logical or systematic order. Considering that this is an AI development tool, we need to give it as much information as possible while considering the token limitation or the context limitation. So what I want to do here is not work on the UI that much at first, but lay out the foundation of the application. So next, instead of improving the UI, I will focus on the backend first. So now I will paste in a new prompt for our database schema. This is very important for this because this will be the foundation, as I mentioned, of how Bolt will handle the rest of the features. So here's the prompt. I am specifically asking Bolt to create specific Firebase collections: users, tutorials, progress, subscriptions. Okay, so let's see. I still have 1.9 million tokens. I forgot to push our changes initially, but let's do that after this. Okay, so it's still working. As I mentioned, we are not focusing on the UI right now, but Bolt generated several files that we need, just like we asked in our prompt here. So now is the time to create a GitHub repository for this. Since I have Bolt to GitHub extension installed, I can click on it, and then I can change the repository name, and I will save the settings. So that repository doesn't exist yet, but if I click on GitHub here, and I will say initial project setup with Firebase configuration, looks like it's triggering the download instead. So maybe they changed something here. Okay, so it's pushing the changes to GitHub now. All right, so we can click on Bolt to GitHub again and open GitHub repository to check that our code is now on GitHub. Okay, let's move on. Since I don't have Firebase configured yet, this will not work. So to test the Firebase integration, we need to create a Firebase account. So I will quickly create a Firebase account. Okay, let's continue. I will create a web app. I'm going to grab this portion. So this is the only required portion of the config. And then I will go back to Bolt, and then I will ask it to configure Firebase based on the configuration that I will provide. Okay, let's proceed with Firebase here. Let's click on Cloud Firestore. I'm going to ask Bolt to create the collections here. Okay, so Bolt says that it will create some sample data to test the configuration and integration. Okay, let me refresh. There's no database here yet because it just created the sample data, initialize it, and do some changes to some other pages or files. Okay, so the initialization will run when you first load the home page, creating all necessary collections. But we have an issue here. No connection established. Let's check our .env file. Let me copy this portion of the error here. I can create the database here manually and then ask Bolt to use that, but I'd rather see Bolt do it automatically. Okay, so there's an issue here. Let's attempt to fix it. As you can see, I'm not a Firebase expert. I'm not using Firebase most of the time. I'm using Postgres. So this simulates an issue or a situation where a non-developer will encounter if they are creating a SaaS application on their own. It looks like there's still some issue here. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. To complete the setup, go to Firebase console, project settings, service accounts. So why do I have to create an email and private key? Well, let's follow what Bolt says here. Firebase console, project settings, service account. Okay, what else? Generate a new private key. Generate a new private key. Okay. It generated this key. Then copy the generated JSON and update the .env local file. Okay. Let's attempt to fix it. Token count check. 1.7 million tokens remaining. We still have a lot to go. Let me go back to the project overview. Load Firestore. Okay, so I may need to help Bolt here. But let's see, it's still compiling. Attempt fix. By the way, let's try the beta feature, Dips. So I won't click this yet because it will reload the project. Let's enable that after we fix this issue. Let me refresh Firebase. There's still nothing. Let me click this first. So it looks like it triggers the download again. So let me go to settings and then enable dips, save and reload. So sometimes the Bolt to GitHub extension doesn't work as expected, but we can try it again here and look at our GitHub repository, double check, and although it didn't mention any progress, we can see that it committed something. It's compiling the API initdb route. We can refresh the preview. Okay, so we have an issue. Okay. Okay, so I'm offering Bolt some help here by manually creating the database. Okay, so it rejected my offer. We don't need to create the database manually. Let's fix the admin configuration and error handling. Okay. I wonder how the diffs will look like. Diff-based approach. Okay, so it's not going to rewrite the entire file anymore. So it should be faster. I misread that. I thought Bolt will have some kind of diff viewer. Let's attempt to fix this issue. There you go. That's the diff-based editing approach by Bolt. It's not rewriting everything anymore. So it's much faster now. And it saves tokens also because it doesn't have to rewrite everything. Did it succeed in creating a database and collections? No, not yet. Let me refresh. Error in database initialization. Okay. Looks like my tokens will run out before I even implemented the other features here. So it's just improving the error handling and better logging. Okay, 2 more problems here. Looks like we're getting nowhere, but retrieve existing Firebase admin instance. That's a good indication, right? We close this for now. Close this also. No. Attempt fix. So rather than attempt fix, I will use another prompt because Bolt is just improving the error handling and logging without maybe actually fixing anything. Let's see where is this coming from. Okay, so I don't have a search functionality here. I cannot search for every file. Since I said Bolt only, I will not use any tools or AI dev tools. Okay, let me ask Bolt, how can I verify Firebase integration? So it's just a question, but I won't be surprised if Bolt make some changes. There you go. So Bolt doesn't have the ability to answer questions. It will always attempt to write or update something. Okay, so now we have some useful information here. Okay, another error handling and lagging improvement. I will mention this to Bolt. If this remains the same, I will move on to the next step. Then we will be able to encounter or have a chance to fix this another way. Alright, so let me just move on to the next phase of our development. Let me click on this. Hopefully it works. Oh no, it doesn't. It's downloading the file. Let me just reload. Okay, there you go. I will fix that issue with the Bolt to GitHub extension later. Let's focus on this application for now. But somehow it worked if you refresh. Now I'm going to prepare the next prompt that we will use. I'm going to implement the basic front end now. Let's just wait for this so that the current run will not be affected by the new files. Alright, so Firebase admin initialized successfully. Looks like it's a good sign. So I have entered a new prompt for the front end. So this is just for the landing page. I'm making it dark light, taggable, using Tailwind, CSS, and some feature highlights, CTAs, hero section, those familiar sections in a landing page. It created several files, updated some. Okay, I want to disable this for now because this will prevent Bolt, or this will confuse Bolt with the actual issue that we want to fix. Or another way is just to copy this portion so that it will not fix all three of the issues here. Okay, so it added use client, but we still have some issue with the database initialization here. Let me refresh. Looks like nothing's changed. Okay, looks like there's no CSS. Compiling. There you go, finally. Okay. So we burn a lot of tokens there, but looks like it works. So now let's move on to the next one. We will now build the interactive tutorial interface. But before that, let me refresh. Then let me push the changes to GitHub. Okay. Added responsive landing page components. Yes, that's the commit message we added. Now let me build the tutorial interface. So this should include an interactive tutorial container, progress tracking UI, navigation system, and possibly the real-time updates with Firestore. Okay, let me paste in my prompt. We can see in the prompt here that I mentioned Firestore updates. So this will configure Firestore or Firebase to implement the real-time updates. So hopefully this will nudge the issue we're having with the database. So we still have the schema here, so nothing's lost with our previous attempt to generate or create the database connection with Firebase. What I will do is I will lock this entire folder so that Bolt will not attempt to change anything from it. I will lock the entire schema. So doing that will prevent Bolt from changing anything here. Okay, let's look at the preview. Looks like there's no issue. We can start learning tutorials. But there you go. Okay, no page found. Okay. Start learning will also go there. So sign in will not work also. So let's fix those issues one by one. It created several components here, but as of now, there's no way to access them. Progress tracking, content display, state management. We can ignore this problem for now, but now let's implement the authentication first so that we'll be able to get through those components. Now I will push changes to GitHub. Okay, so now our latest changes is safe in GitHub. I will tell Bolt here to implement the Firebase authentication. Let's start with email providers first. So the locking doesn't persist on reload, so I have to lock this again. I only have 996k remaining for my 2 million free tokens. Okay, there's the sign in button. You can test the authentication system by visiting login or sign up. Please fix. All right. Sign in. It works. Create new account. Sign in. Okay. So let me create a new account. Okay, so there's an issue there. Let's try to fix it. So now we're touching Firebase configuration again, but this time we're doing the authentication. Right? Let's try to create an account. It still says the same error, configuration not found. Let me refresh. Maybe one of these should be marked as client, entry with the use client. Login form. There's already a use client there. Let me restart the server. Compiling, that's why it's displaying a blank page here. I wonder what this means, but hopefully it doesn't affect our app. Where's the sign in button? There's the sign in button. Let me copy this error, paste it in Bolt. Let me go to Firebase to see if there's any changes here. Maybe we just need to press that button and enable password, email and password. And then I will go to Firebase database. I create a database here. Let's do that next. I will start in test mode just to make sure that everything works. I'll create. So maybe this step is the one thing missing. We need to do this from Firebase admin here or dashboard, because we have tried Bolt several times to fix the issue with the Firebase database. So now I guess Bolt will be able to create the collections and properly set up the authentication. Let's rerun the server. Remember earlier I asked Bolt if we need to create the Firebase database, and it says no, it will handle it, but it cannot. So maybe there's something changed since then. Maybe before it would work, but now it won't until we created the database and the authentication, or enable the authentication here in the Firebase dashboard. Okay, let's preview, sign in. Let me create a new account. All right, the page could not be found. But let's see if there's something here. There you go. I have successfully created the username or the user in Firebase. So this error is related to the UI, not with Firebase. Let's click attempt fix. So it's creating the missing dashboard page. Okay. So the dashboard is where there. So it looks like we're authenticated, but there's no way to log out. We will have to ask Bolt to do that. These are the profile page and the sign up button. We will test the sign in and sign out functionality. It's now creating the profile page as requested. Okay, so there you go. The menu is not showing up. There, it's showing up now. There's some kind of delay. So I can sign out. I can sign in. All right. There we go. Works. Alright everyone, in this part, we have set up our project foundation using Bolt. We have our database schema, Firebase Auth is working, and we've got our user dashboard and profile pages up and running. Not bad for a start, but we've hit some interesting challenges, especially with that Firestore integration. In the next part, we'll dive into building the actual tutorial content and see if we can really complete this entire app using just Bolt. The code is in the GitHub repo below. I'll see you in part 2. Thanks for watching. Happy coding!